Hello, man. Let's see how we're doing here. Hope you're all doing okay today. Hello, man. There we go. Pull that down, bring that up as normal. Hope you're all doing okay today. Just stops by to say hello to all the Mgtow brothers. Hey, go your own way, Mgtows. Go your own way. And Mgtow is freedom. Freedom is everything in Mgtow. Wanted to talk a little today and just pretty much say hello to everybody, and that's about it. And we're going to talk today about chaos and drama. Drama is chaos, and we're going to talk about why drama is not good for a Mgtow, and we're going to talk about why chaos is slavery. And I guess we can get that from Nietzsche. Chaos is slavery, and he would say so. A lot of things are slavery of the mind. When we start doing those things, we commit ourselves to them, and we commit ourselves to things that from the initial. And hello, Mgtow warrior. What we're talking about is from the initial. What was from the initial, the drama of females, the drama of dating, the drama of relationships and all those things. Drama is one of the things we need to get away from. Drama is chaos, and chaos is slavery. And as long as we put ourselves in that position, we enslave ourselves or to other people again. I know that's a hard thing to break ourselves. There's so many things in Mgtow you have to break yourselves of, and first we go through the red pill, and then there's these little things. What's next? The what's next thing that everybody runs into, that metaphysical Mgtow wall where they get all the Mgtow, they get the philosophy of it, and or they get light philosophy of it, and then there's the what next thing. It's what do I do next? Most people will just go Mgtow at Mgtow and leave, and there's a shedding then, and some people go and relieve themselves of the Mgtow label, and they think that's the best thing to do. And do your own Mgtow, whatever it is you do in Mgtow, that's okay. I'm just go your own way, and I'm fine with that. And but chaos is one of those things that keep us excited about this thing around here. I didn't know how my beard looked today. I was out riding my bike in the wind, and it was like on my face and everything today. But it was a beautiful day, and I feel okay. And my headache departed today. And as you know, I had a headache for a few weeks there, and I was reading and just stopped by to say hello, Mgtows, hello, man. And it's a beautiful thing to be a Mgtow, and but we shut ourselves of a lot of things. And it's funny that Nietzsche's last step to what he was asceticism, and that's the monk. He tried 3 times to get married to the same girl, Simona, I think her name was. Simona had his heart on a locket, and and he tried 3 times to get married. Both times she was a person that was of a Protestant nature, and believed that sex was wrong, and and marriage was sex, and blah blah blah. She was sort of a feminist in that way, and I suppose Nietzsche would have picked her because she was that kind of a person. But all in all, it didn't work out for Friedrich. He was more Mgtow than he knew, and then he moved into his Mgtow years, and that's when he got very interested, along with syphilis. I know, syphilis will make you kind of do esoteric things, But Nietzsche rebelled against that, and it's all about the rebel. And Mgtow's all about the rebel. What are you rebelling? The metaphysical rebel, I guess I would call it. And the metaphysical rebel is, this life is going to go on. Our government's going to do what they're going to do. People are going to think and there's a sort of slavery all over this thing. So the only place to be free, the first spot to be free, is in your mind, and you become the metaphysical rebel. And that's Mgtow, the metaphysical rebel. And a lot of us, we go a little farther. We go Galt. We move away, and we go asceticism, and that's the monk. And for Nietzsche, asceticism was the last was the last step of his journey. And he writes a lot, and it's usually translated by a lot of different people, even his sister, which screwed up his last book so terribly. They said this is a forgery, but but his sister inherited that, and then she also did she was a curator of the museum where Nietzsche's stuff is laid, and that museum and everything. But there's a lot of things, and there's a few words that hinge on, and I don't think a lot of people get them when they go through through it. And I wanted to read this little passage. It's about a page and a half. It's a kind of a small book I have. It's called The Rebel. The Rebel is Camus, or Samas, pronounced in the Albanian. It's Samas. The French say Camus. His name was Samas in the Albanian because he was Albanian. The last transformation in the passage of nihilism is into active nihilism, Nietzsche proclaimed. In the words, in this world, we rid ourselves of God and moral idols. Man is now alone and without his master. No one has been less inclined than Nietzsche, which was distinguished himself among the romantics. Anti-romanticism is where Mgtow starts. The romanticism, how men romanticize things in their head, the Disney Pixar thing with we're going to get a girl, we're going to get that white fence. We romanticize those things, and that's where Nietzsche would agree that romanticism has to be shed. And that was during the times up to leading 1745, up to Nietzsche's time. And Camus agreed. To let it believe in such freedom would be crazy. The complete liberation put him among the ranks of those whom he himself said that they suffered. They suffered. We can see suffering come in there. And a new form of anguish would come upon this new happiness that they found. They shedded God, and hence they needed something to replace God, and a new form of happiness would come upon it, and thus the beginning. It is only the anguish that makes them cry out loud, alas, a great madness, unless I am above the law. Now Nietzsche talks about being above the law, or below the law, or incarcerated. Above the law, and the most outcast of us, he cannot maintain his position above the law, and in fact find another law that would take refuge from the madness. And when Nietzsche and Camus and Steiner, Karamov, and they would talk about absurdity of this world, we often talk about the absurdity of what we see. The absurdity of what we see and how we Mgtow see it. It tells us a lot about Mgtows when we look into this awful world and we don't agree with everything we see, and we think, Jesus, marriage is absurd, and the law is absurd, and it's restrictive, and it's just so, police can pay themselves and pay the judges, and then they can put people in jail and then pay themselves some more and have these grand buildings to live in. And everything points to that, and there's senselessness, and the police only show up after the crime is committed, which makes it a hypocrisy. Better to have a good neighborhood than to have police, I think. He who cannot complain or cannot maintain his position above the law, in fact, will find another law and take refuge in his madness. From the moment that a man believes neither in God nor in mortal life, he becomes responsible for everything alive. Now, this is where the romanticism comes in. The male is responsible for everything alive after it seems like the whole world's been put on our back. Nietzsche noticed that with the separation of God and in the church and the new civil religions that were coming around. As soon as we shed ourselves of this God, we become the God, and we took on all that responsibility as men. We can see how that's formed our society now. Responsible for everything alive. Yeah. For everything is born of suffering and is condemned in suffering of life. It is he and he alone who must discover law and order for himself in the times that he's exiled in the endless search for justification, the aimlessness, nostalgia. Please go back and if you don't know what metaphysical nostalgia is, please go listen to my videos on nostalgia, and that'll explain that. The most painful and heartbreaking questions is of the heart, in which we ask ourselves, and where we feel at home. Where do you feel at home? I think Mgtow gives us a home. Finally, we come we come around Mgtow, and we find a place where there's like-minded men, and it feels like home. Finally, I come at home, and Nietzsche would agree, and I think Camus would agree, and Steiner would agree too, about how we find home. And I think it's important, and we often talked about this in Mgtow. Because his mind is not free, Nietzsche knew that freedom of the mind is not a comfort. The red pill. Once you find out about these things, freedom of the mind becomes anguish for a while. And then we have the red pill rage. Nietzsche talks about this, or Camus, through Nietzsche's interpretations, talk about this. Um, but the achievement of which one appears and long last obtains after the exhausted struggle, he knows that wanting and considering himself above the law, there is great risk of finding himself beneath the law. That is he understood the only he found the emancipation in the acceptance of his new obligations. What was his new obligations? Everything we take on our back as we take on the separation of God, and we take around we take on all those responsibilities that we take on that red pill attitude. It's now my responsibility. I'm my responsibility. And I expect that from everybody else now. It's a sort of Mgtow objectivism, where we expect what we give and what we take. I'm aesthetic. I'm the aesthetic, and I expect these things, the same thing as I give in life, and I expect people to take care of themselves in those ways. It's a very Mgtow thing in the Mgtow philosophy. The essence of discovery consists saying that if the eternal law is not freedom, the absence of law still less freedom. If nothing is true in a world without order, then nothing is forbidding to prohibit an action. There must be, in fact, by a standard of value and an aim. Standard of value and an aim. That's what we look for when we get these things as Mgtow. I say never drop one thing, replace it with something, a philosophy. And solid Mgtow philosophy is a good thing to replace it with. But at the same time, nothing is authorized. We feel that in Mgtow, nothing is authorized. There is also the value and aim and order to choose another course of action. That's what we do. Absolute domination by the law does not represent liberty. There is no more, but no more does absolute anarchy. The sum total of everything prohibited does not amount to liberty, but the impossible amount to slavery. Chaos is a form of servitude. And that's what I wanted to get at today. Chaos is a form of servitude. Freedom exists only in a world where it is possible, is defined at the same time what is not possible. So what he's saying there is what is possible is in chaos is defined by what is not possible, what you can't do in this world. Slavery itself, it's a very hard passage to understand with Nietzsche when he says that the world is the possibilities of the world is defined by what is not possible, what you can't do, the laws which inhibit you from doing these things. There is no freedom in that, and you drive your freedom in little pieces of what you can take, and that's where Nietzsche starts talking about the what is it, Zarathustra. and about being a Superman. But in the Superman, there's another Superman, and it's another form of servitude, because the Superman will fight. I don't think a lot of people got that when they talked about Zarathustra. There was three forms of the slavery. There was the camel, is the most common form, which carries the master's packs. Then there was the Superman, Zarathustra, and then there was the baby, which just kind of like a baby would deny everything in nihilism. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about nihilism, the denial of God, and then nihilism. Chaos is a form of servitude. Freedom exists only there would be possible is defined at the same time as what's not possible. Without law, there is no freedom. If fate is not guided by superior values, if chance is king, then there is nothing to step back into the darkness into. Appalling freedom of the blind. Yeah, you'd be blind walking around as the blind leading the blind, I suppose, like you see now. Nietzsche, therefore, choose the most complete subordination. If we do not make of God's death the great renunciation and perpetual victory over ourselves, we shall have to pay that omission. In other words, Nietzsche rebellion end with asceticism. And I think this is true. If we work these things out in our head, I'll end it right there because I don't want to go. Maybe I'll read the next passage. It's very important what he said in the next passage. I'm not sure it's a perpetual victory, asceticism. A profound logic replaces it. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. Of Karamazov by, and I'll explain Karamazov to you guys. So if you don't know about Karamazov, if nothing is true, nothing is permitted. He said, to deny the things and the single things is forbidden, and the amount of renunciation of everything is permitted. So Karamazov is an interesting concept, and it'll tell you about where Nietzsche was. Nietzsche wouldn't know about the brothers Karamazov at the time, because Nietzsche didn't start writing till the late 1880s. Karamazov brothers by Dostoevsky was written in 1882 or 1881. I can't remember, but he wouldn't know about the Karamazov brothers. But Dostoevsky wasn't talking about the Karamazov brothers. It was a name, and the name comes from a pejorative, and it's Karamazov. It's funny what that means, and it's a real Mgtow thing. It means that rancid whore, the son of a rancid whore. So when you see Nietzsche referencing Karamazov during his middle years after he retired from the college and he first started having his pains, he would reference, but he didn't meet actual Dostoevsky till later in his life. And it was a common term. Karamazov was, it was a son born of a rancid whore. So he was talking about the brothers, Karamazov, the sons born of this rancid whore that died in the street, and the sons were left as orphans. And that's what they were talking about when they talked about Karamazov down there. And we see this a lot in Mgtow. We see it with our articulations and single motherhood. And a lot of boys are left alone to fend for themselves at night. And a lot of mothers are of ill repute now. They take money for sex, and marriage is payment for sex. And men think that they deserve sex and marriage and everything. And that's where Simona came in with Nietzsche. She denied him 3 times because she didn't believe, sex was payment for marriage. There was more, and Nietzsche couldn't understand that. Being a young man, most young men can't understand that. And there has to be more. There has to be, what are you bringing to the table? And Simona was not bringing nothing to the table except for her presence at that time, I suppose. And what was Nietzsche bringing to the table too? I can hit it every night or something like that. No, he wasn't. So we can see how that works out in his thinking and why he would say, then he became the ascetic, the monk, and that's where his journey ends. And he starts writing, and he starts writing profoundly. Um, Hello, Eric. Hello, John Q. Uh, yes, John Q. It's from the book The Rebel. The, uh, Camus gives a great interpretation, or Samas gives a great interpretation of Nietzsche, and he sees it the way it is because he sees total absurdity, and he sees chaos and absurdity and drama, and he doesn't want to fill his life with that, and he wants to be free like a Mgtow, and that's all a Mgtow really wants to do is be free. I want to be free from these things that they throw on us, these fatherhood that they throw on us. I can't have a baby. I think it's absurd. In the words of the great Al Bundy, he said, masculinity dies the moment men started saying, we're having a baby, because we're not having a baby. She's having a baby. She gets three choices. She gets the choice to abort, her body, her choice, and blah blah blah. One other one that I can't think of over my right now, but she gets three choices in that situation, but she refuses to take responsibility and accountability for her body, and hence the word father is born. And father is the trap that gets you trapped into thinking you're the protector, you're the provider. And men believe that masculinity died on the day when men started saying, we're having a baby, because we're not having a baby. She's having a baby. It's 100% her responsibility. Hence chaos in our system that alienates men and makes them into slaves. Chaos is slavery. Slavery is chaos. Drama is chaos. When we introduce drama to Mgtow and we start arguing with the I think that's what my passage was all about, and I kind of veered. I'll come a long way around there. You know how I am. Drama is just trying to replace that structure that you gave up when you rejected the God, when you rejected this God out here, and the God, our God is the social structure. It's the civil religion that rules us all, and that's the greater power that rules us all. When you're buying into that drama that they want you to buy into, the religialistic ritual things that lead up to marriage, an absurd process that's archaic. And this time, that just makes you a slave. Most people would reject that, and most men should reject that. It's an archaic, unless you're doing what Nietzsche was saying. Most men are going to sell out for the P. And we see this around here. He wanted to marry Simona for a long time, and he couldn't have that. And he finally found that. Man, it's all chaos, it's all garbage, it's all absurdity, and it's all drama, and I want to free myself of all that stuff. And how do I do that? Well, I go Mgtow. That's what makes Mgtow an ancient religion almost, because a lot of the Sophets, a lot of the philosophers, from Camus to Steiner to Nietzsche to the pragmaticists, Dewey, and all those guys, and they all seen this thing that was happening. It was like Marx almost foreseeing what's going to happen with communism, and but at that time, Nietzsche got blamed for the same thing. He went through the same process of Mgtow. He rejected. He went to aestheticism, became his way of life, and he was called gay. And then there was several other philosophers at that time that would, oh, well, Nietzsche's having trouble deciding about homosexuality. And he really wasn't. He had just found a better place. He started writing again in spite of his maladies. In spite of his malady. Can you imagine how hard it is having syphilis? And being in that time where, everything was hard. And and there was no cure, and he wrote through that, and I think that's because he shut himself of all these worldly things, and he shut himself of God, and he shut himself of all those rituals, and the rituals today we shut ourselves of, like I say, is that ritualized process that the government has, and the government becomes this thing, this civil religion to us, and then we get nationalism or patriotic. We look at the flag. Uh, I mean, Aldous Huxley would talk about this, and the lines of marching men. His brother was a great philosopher too, and well, he's more of a scientist. He had three, a genius family. I wish I had some of those genes. I wish I could go back and collect a little bit of that sperm and bring it back to nowadays, because the Huxley brothers were brilliant for their times. The whole family was brilliant. It's almost amazing. Yeah, knowledge is power, Eric. But I digress. And in this thing, I see chaos. And if we can see chaos and absurdity in our lives, then we become better Mgtows. We become better men. We pull away from that. We become the aesthetic, and then we get blamed like Nietzsche was. And then he had to go through all the same things, and he had to fight with the religious people, and he had to fight with the people that wanted him to be this certain thing that a man was supposed to be. But that was the Romantics before that, in the age of Victorianism. That they would duel to death with swords and stab each other over honor, and honor is the biggest culprit in a male's life. Of there's positive honor and there's negative honor, and that was negative honor and chivalry, which is horrible in the age of Romanticism. Is still today we look at our buildings and our Gothic Romanticism in itself doesn't the meaning itself doesn't confirm sexual notations or something. It means Romanism, Romanticism, Romanism, where they build it and you admire these things for its beauty, like the Romantics do. They admire women for their beauty, and they get encapsulated in that. It becomes also Disney and Pixar, where we believe in these things that really aren't real, and fantasy fiction land becomes everything to everybody in this culture. And I know I was stuck in that fantasy fiction land of nationalism and Go America and all that stuff, and I didn't see at that time that I was just echoing and mimicking my master's chants, and I had become the slave to the civil religion of government, and the state is the biggest evil. I think Nietzsche would agree with that. I can't remember who he said the state is the biggest evil. I can't remember. I think that might have been Dewey that said that, and or no, it was probably Wright. Wright was the drunk, but yeah, there's lots of drama up here, and I think we have to shed that, because that's what this whole thing was about: the drama, the going out and the arguing with the girls, and going out and arguing with the feminists. I don't care what the feminists are doing anymore. It doesn't bother me in my life, because my life doesn't. Once you're Mgtow, your life doesn't surround about that. A good book, and if you want to read a really good book, you can get it on audio. I've been reading it and listening to the audio at the same time. The Rebel by Camus, or Samas. You pronounce it the way you want to pronounce it, but I'm Albanian, and it is Samas, and it sounds better. It sounds tougher. Camus he was one of those guys that a sad life up to the point where he decided to rebel against what he was. He was born poor, and that was his crime. Samas was a man's man. He was intelligent. He was good looking. all the women wanted him. But as a boy, he was extremely impoverished in France, where he was looked at as just one of those brown people, Albanians that were here, and he had to go through that. But there was no time in his life. He was married, but he had three girlfriends, and but the hypocrisy of his death was. His race car. He died in his friend's race car. It's unclear right now whether he died after that and wrote the last book, or he died at that point. Right now, with me at least, it's unclear. Some people say yes, he died there, and some people say he hung on for a while, but a traumatic brain injury or something. But he had a ticket in his pocket. He was supposed to go take a train that day and go visit one of those sexy French actresses. Wanted him to come and like just plow that. He was supposed to go do that for the weekend, and he said, "No, I'd rather hang around with my pal and do the race car thing and do some man shit and be masculine." But Camus was he was a masculine man that was born extremely. He had to rise above that and see where to find happiness in life, and he's seen most of the time was just chaos and absurdity, like a Mgtow would think. This whole thing is that we have to shut ourselves, and that's what's the point of this. We shut ourselves to those horrible things that were told, and those lies that we are told by generations before us. And I used to be mad at my father for telling me those lies, and all the men in the neighborhood that, oh, just go get yourself a girlfriend, nothing better than sex in this world. And then I found out sex was rather disappointing, and it was addictive, and there were certain things that happened with my chemistry in my body where I began needing it, and I became needy, and I simped. And I was a simp when I was with a female, and I became that thing that we all us Mgtows we dislike, and when we see it, we know it. You just know it when it comes around. It's that thing that's simping, and that oh, I gotta have it or else I'm gonna die. No, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna die if you don't get hugs. It cuddles on the couch. That's easily put away, so you can become like Nietzsche. You can become like Camus. You can start thinking in your life, and that's what I think we call the red pill. I often wonder whether some people call themselves red pew. There's traditional people and unoriginal. Traditional, by the way, is synonymous with unoriginal. Uh, Traditional conservatism is just redundant of unoriginal. And they say, oh, we've woke up. We see the red pill too, but do they really? It's easily interpreted, but it goes much, much deeper in Mgtow. And I found that out during my Mgtow journey. My God, it goes deep, and there's a lot of studying, and there's a lot of philosophy. And I like these guys that Mgtow is not a movement, it's a philosophy. Yes, there's a hell of a lot of philosophy, and I wish people would start practicing that philosophy, see where you see it in books and of our forefathers. And the Rebel's a good place. I would order it on audiobook because he is French in nature, and it rolls like verses of from heaven to your ear when you pick out things and you say, oh, that's me and that's me. And Camus has a Samas or Camus, however you want to pronounce it, has a way of taking a single paragraph and giving you 30 different things to think about in very well structured sentences. And once you start doing the logistics of his sentence too, you see the genius of them. You go, wow, I'm a logistics person, logistics and linguistics. I always fucked them two up, but I like to dissect the language and look at it. And it was genius the way he did positives to contrapositives instead of positives to negatives. And we found out that if you do a positive, like when people say Mgtow is like feminism, that's a positive to a negative. All you can get is a false. It's just a false. But he does that with linguistics. He does that with his words, and he figures it out in a heartbeat, when he speaks. So that's a Mgtow thing too. Untangle the rhetorics of life. These people speak with the devil's tongue sometimes, and they all they want is all the crabs in the bucket want is another slave, to pull them down so they can feel better about themselves. Most of us, I mean, 99.9% of us aren't going to be the billionaires. Wish I could. I think I'd make a great billionaire. But I was talking with a friend the other day, and I was doing a research project just about last week or something about intelligence and wealth. And I found out that, the top 5 most intelligent people on this planet all work on common jobs. And it was like, oh my God, one was a school teacher, one was worked for a library, one was and it doesn't pay very well to be an intellectual in this society, but it pays very well to be crafty. And crafty and intellectual are 2 different things. And maybe I'll do a, and I think that's where education fails us if you don't put it together in sort of a Dewey's practical educational guide. Educational faults us, and that's where we start talking about the romanticism part, the romanticism of education. We start talking about the gender studies and those kind of things. It often fails us because intellectualism does not pay well. And you can know all the words of gender studies, and you can be the greatest sociologist in the world, but as a McDonald's manager, no, they're going to hire somebody with the restaurant degree in restaurant and hoteling. He'll know about hoteling's management. Hoteling was a person, by the way. When you see that word, hoteling, it was a person, not a hotel. But I always thought that was funny when I seen it. Intellectualism doesn't pay good in this, and the smartest people in the world. I mean, I guess that's why back in the day of pharaohs and kings, they often kept a eunuch by them. Eunuchs don't think about. They cut they castrate them and they cut it. They don't no longer think about sex, and they don't longer think about the other party. When you want an unbiased opinion, that's sort of like being a monk and a Mgtow monk. Once you put that away, you unbias your opinion about all that stuff, and that's where being a monk is. I refuse to talk about that down there. I refuse. It's don't ask, don't tell. I refuse to talk about it. I refuse to tell about it. Let's keep the conversation where the conversation should, not about those things. And I guess that's why I got mad years ago at the 2 gentlemen that wanted to talk about that, and hence he tried to ruin my channel. But I think you all know who he is. But I refuse to talk about those things. I refuse to do that. If I want to be a proper intellectual and a proper philosopher, you have to put that stuff away like Nietzsche did. And that's what he says. He ended his search with aestheticism, and that was a common end. I didn't understand that because of the kind of flip-floppy way he wrote for a while, and I didn't get the passage because I was going over it until I kind of sat down and did one word at a time. Sometimes you have to sit down with these things and do one word at a time and go, oh, that doesn't mean what I thought it meant. And my youth was taken over. I thought it was a pejorative towards asceticism, but no, it was when I seen it again and again and again, and I was like, oh, wait a second, he's not saying that. He's saying that was his last stop on the way. I mean, that was the end point. That was where he started becoming a man, when he could put those childish things away, not stop sucking on the tit, John Q. Many millionaires never knew they were going to be wealthy. Tom Likas, for one. Yeah. Tom Likas kind of lucked out at the time where gender dynamics became I mean, he wasn't in sports, and he wasn't in news, and everything wasn't that excited, and he doesn't have the greatest personality. What he kind of lucked out. He fell in the spot where gender dynamics became an issue, and then he would just kind of hit on it once in a while, and start talking about why are women always, why are they so awful now, and feminism, why is feminism so awful, and then he formed a whole show about it, and that was luck. Uh, Luck is a great thing, uh, you know, but it's the lottery, and we talked about that a few videos ago. The lottery of life sometimes doesn't give you good looks like me. I'm so pretty, but the lottery of life doesn't sometimes give you great good looks or wealth. We're not Donald Trump. I didn't have 500 million bucks given to me by my father. If I did, I'd probably be a billionaire too. I was in a club. Woo, nice. Would have been good to be in a club, but I'm not. I'm born a poor Irish, second generation African Irish. My grandfather came over on the Johannesburg Trail, so he came through Africa. So when we came through, they wrote, "These are Africans." Just funny. So I'm more African than most people. I came my second generation in from Johannesburg. That's because he was chased out of Ireland and then chased out of France, and then he came here. So all that. Hello, Riff Mangoes, my friend Riff. We were talking about drama today. Drama is another form of slavery. Uh, and I think I explained how you're going to get there. You got to release yourself when you're the Mgtow. Where else are you going to find that? The drama, it's just another addiction. It's a lingering addiction from the love and the romanticism and the wanting to diddle those things. We release all those things in Mgtow. We release the drama of probably the hardest part in here, and I seen it years and years ago, even back in 2012 when this thing started kicking off on YouTube. Everybody wanted to do the anti-feminism thing, and that's just drama. So what they do is they'd have a gentle alliance with one of the females so they can argue back and forth. And a gentle alliance is a gentle alliance. It's just a relationship. We talk about these things, but so when I see the men arguing with the girls, you have a gentle alliance with them. You're involving yourself in a relationship of drama, and that's what the girls want. I mean, the biggest thing you can do is reject them and walk away. And all you guys know it. The way to piss off a woman is not argue with her. You just walk away from that stuff. Ooh, that'll make her mad. No wrath like that. You'll incur. But that's what happens. You incur this wrath of this, and this drama and this chaos comes around, and we bring it to ourselves in Mgtow. And Mgtow is supposed to be a place of serenity and peace and healing from the chaotic world of absurdity. A lot of men depend on that. Sooth, hello, Sooth. I know Sooth understands that, and Riff understands that, and Eric understands what the value of serenity, the value of introspection, the value of the monk when we could just do our thing. You know what? I took a bike ride today, and I was out doing my thing. My legs hurt this morning. I didn't want to do them things, but found some time for myself. I think I tried to watch a stupid movie too, and then I looked at the garbage on TV, and I was like, "My God, is this what TV became?" Well, I took my break. But yeah, the drama of the world. Half of them were about drama too. Is about those intricate things and relationships. And I always say, she's going to make your life into drama, and that becomes your life. And guys look at marriage now as you say, "Whoa, we can have sex and it relieves stress." And I say, "Well, why do you have the stress anyways? Because you're married." It's the trap. It's all back to the same ritualized trap. You're having sex day in and day out and treating that like you're objectifying that. And that's one of the complaints they feel the females are having with us. We objectify that because we got too much stress in our lives, anxiety in our lives. It's total anxiety. And I was also reading a little bit. I can't remember his name, Krumer or something like that. He was a doctor in the 60s, and he said the problem with the world today is too much anxiety. That's mental illness. Uh, it's the anxiety of, it's the same absurdity that Camus was looking at with the myth of Sisyphus. Uh, we live, and in the rest of our life we look to our point of our death, and when that becomes so overwhelming, and then there's suicide, and that's overwhelming, and there's pain, and that's overwhelming, and it's all anxiety, and we wonder why there's so much mental illness. And I think Mgtow in itself relieves us of that anxiety, at least. We throw away all those things and we become normal, but that normal looks really queer to people. They look at it like it's almost like something's painted the wrong color, it's it's like, wow, you guys are different. And they can't explain it and they can't put their finger on it. um, of course they can't until they experience it. But that release comes with the rebel. That's what Nietzsche was talking about in the book, that the guide, if you go back and read it, 7170 starts. Camus talks about Nietzsche and the rebel, and he'll go on for a couple pages at least. But yeah, that's what he was talking. Until you become and you release yourself of all these things that were absurd, these ridiculousnesses, the idea of God and the idea of religion, and it all comes through your great. They allow you to do it in your government, and it's like, and then the government becomes a god, and then you get married by the god government. You ever go? I want you all to do a I want you all to do a research project this week, and go down to your local office government buildings. We have 7 of them around here. We have a community of 200,000 people. And we have seven huge, huge government buildings, and each one of them have pillars, and they're the romantic pillars. They're the Roman pillars that inspire the romanticism in us. And they got flags and statues of fallen heroes, and you start thinking about, what is this thing I'm seeing? It's another form of religion. It's another form of, and then you walk in, and you paid for this thing. You think about it. We got 7 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 7 of them. And who's paying for that? You're paying for that in your house taxes for a bunch of a bunch of a bunch of morons can sit in oversized offices that resemble just Roman Goliath buildings, so each one of them can be Caesar and rule over you. It's ridiculousness. It's ridiculous. Also, I can get my street plowed once in a while. I would rather not have my street plowed. If that's what it costs, I pay for my own garbage. I pay for my own water. All these things have been industrialized. They're privatized. There's nothing I need the city for. Pretty soon we pay for our streets. Where the government, the federal government, should put up, take care of your streets, but no. I mean, too much government. Jesus Christ, 7 buildings for 200,000 people. Each one of those buildings probably costs 30, 40, 50 million dollars to build, but they resemble these romantic ideas of the Roman age, and that's what romanticism is. And it captures you. It captures that imagination of men, where we're fighting with swords and buccaneers, and we're all these myths, and it's appealing to men. Romanticism is the devil to a Mgtow. And I might read that. There's a there's a whole chapter on romanticism through Camus' vision of romanticism, and he believes the same thing I believe. He's very Mgtow, and he talks about Don Juanism, and he talks about romanticism, and it's a very good read to if you want to start understanding PUAs. And our PUA brothers have veered a little from their philosophies lately, and they'll get back to it, I think. Someday they'll realize that they're part of the Mgtow sign. And like I always said, the Mgtow sign has four sides for a reason. We thought about that back there. I remember the conversation is what is this? What should this look like? And someone said it should look like a hazard sign. And somebody said, no, there's four parts of this thing. And I said, yeah, there's the PUA and there's the MRA and this new Mgtow thing. And then there's Going Galt. Going Galt was the thing that came in about that time because Atlas Shrugs was the newest movie, and everybody started getting what Rand was saying with Atlas Shrugs. Even though I don't like objectivism, it's convenient. It plays into the Mgtow. It plays into that Burgess individualism that you have to say no. And then the greatest words Mgtow's is the greatest word Mgtow has is no. It's just no. So we have the four sides of the sign, and go your own way. And man, it's talking to all these men, the PUA and the MRA and the Going Galt and the Mgtow. It all came together in this idea back then. Unfortunately, I was old enough to have witnessed it, and I wish I was the young guy and coming into Mgtow now. 15, 16, 20 years ago almost. It's funny how time passes too. When we become Mgtows, your life becomes happy. I would always tell people, 15 years, if I could take the 15 years back, I've had a life that I should have never really had. All these guys around me are slaves, and they're all miserable, and they're all doing the suffering. And I just look at my life and I think, and if I died tomorrow, I would thank the gods to be that. Thank you for giving me Mgtow, because I got to enjoy something that was different to every other male that existed before me. We are truly on the cutting edge. I got to enjoy actual happiness in this lifetime because of Mgtow, an understanding of what it takes to be happy too. A thorough understanding. And I think what gods there is, whatever ones you guys keep or take, or if there is, or if there isn't, at least the universe, I'll shout out to the universe, the God of the universe, and say thank you for giving me this for 15, 20 years. Giving me a thorough red pill understanding of the world so I don't have to suffer. Too much suffering. Men suffer too much. They take them things on their back like Atlas. It's like Sisyphus rolling that boulder up the hill there. Imagine yourself happy. That's the only lesson I give nowadays. Think what you want to think. Do your own Mgtow. But while you're doing this, there's just one true. Imagine yourself happy. And that's what Camus would say to Sisyphus. Just imagine yourself happy, and then get back to me on that. That's what I would tell all the married men. You're buying, it's all fake. It's false. It's a false world you're living in. The Matrix. The Matrix is a funny word too. It's kind of out of order there. The matrix meaning bones within a womb from the etymology. So it's bones in a womb. And what is the matrix? Is it the womb, or is it the bones that are growing in there? I know that's a disgusting thought, but that's what matrix means. The power of no. Yes, the power of no. So I just wanted to come and talk a little today. I was feeling good and I didn't have my headache. I've been reading a lot. I tried reading Steiner today, and I can never quite place what Steiner wanted. Uh, I guess when you read Steiner, it's that contrapositive to Nietzsche. You can use Steiner as a contrapositive, and they're both on the same thing, but they're not really talking the same language or something. It's just, but that's with Descartes too. Descartes. I don't think Nietzsche ever read. He says he never read Descartes. Someone was supposed to explain it at the end of his life, and I think that was Steiner. Steiner was going to talk to Nietzsche about Descartes when he was in Paraguay, but he died, and but some of the pundits nowadays work right through it. Branton Russell explained it very well, and about all those things, but but you know. We try to live and we try to learn as Mgtows, and that's where the joy is, at least. And hey, Dougie's feeling a lot better. I got his infections under control. He's blind and deaf now, and I have a blind and deaf dog. I have to carry him in and out every morning, and I had to put a little new spot and tile it. So if he loses his consonants, I pick him up and I carry him outside, and I carry him in, and I carry him to his bowls, and so it's a burden having a deaf and blind dog. I'm going to change his name to Helen Keller. I was saying that the other day to him, but his infection. I didn't think he was going to live. He got that infection in the fall that comes around so much in Ohio from the birds coming in from the south. My son thinks he was poisoned. Someone poisoned him, and that's a possibility too. But he lost. He just broke out with all these wounds, and they couldn't get him under control. And he was pretty close to biting the big one, but I flipped the funding for the vet. Yeah, I did. Usually in my life, I wouldn't do that with a dog, but I don't know, my old age and Albert Schweitzer's philosophy about casual cruelty. And that's another thing we work up through Steiner, and then we get to Albert Schweitzer, and then we realize we don't have to be so cruel to everybody in the world. Just kind of take it easy and just be a nice guy, and it pays off. And that's my philosophy. Just be a nice guy and it pays off, and you don't have to argue with everything. And this nihilism only gets more nihilism, and even Nietzsche at the end, he embraced the aestheticism, because that was the only way to go, really. And just try to be nice and smile. Sometimes you'll have to do the creepy smile. Yeah, you're an ass, and you want to say it, but just don't say it. And it pays off. In my analogy with the chicken store, be nice to the girls at the chicken counter, and once in a while they're going to throw you that extra piece of chicken in there, and it's just because you just smiled and wasn't such a dick. I think the biggest curse on this world today is dickism. It's like the United States. They wouldn't have half the problems. We wouldn't have to keep the biggest military in the world if we just kept from being dicks. Just that should be a motto. I should run for president, and my motto would be Joe, not a dick. World's an absurd place. Hey, Eric, how is Howard Dare? I was wondering how Howard Dare is. I hope he's okay. Oh, I wanted to give a shout out to our buddy Vention. Our buddy Vention's going through some stuff, and he's going through the cancer. I don't know what form he has, and if you get a chance to go over and say hello and give our buddy Vention some kind words, I think he deserves it. He's been around a long time, and he's always happy, and if you don't agree with him, then you don't agree with him. But he's going through it, and he needs a pat on the back and a big Mgtow hug, and I think in Mgtow he'll find his cure because I told him today Mgtow is like just going to look in the face of the universe and look at the cancer and go, mother bitch, is that all you got? Bring it. Bring it. I'm going to crush that. And I know I found my strength in Mgtow to live in this world because I was beat up when I first came around here. I was ready for the end, screaming out to the metaphysical gods, please take me. And MGTOW, MGTOW gave me the courage, and then I realized I was one of the few, the courage to live. And that's what the myth of Sisyphus is about, the absurdity of suicide. There is only one philosophical question, and that's of suicide, I suppose. Clown World. I was going to do something about Clown World and explain Clown World from Camus's view, and they did take it. Where was this at? I was thinking about that. I have some gibberish written down somewhere about the Clown World and Camus, the theater of the absurd, and that's what they're talking about. The clown versus it's the contrapositive to the aesthetic. The Mgtow aesthetic is the clown. That's what Camus. That was the contrapositive, and what was the other one? The contrapositive to. There was 2 examples or 4 examples he gives, and one is the clown, and that's where the theater of the absurd, you get to witness it when you're the aesthetic, and aestheticism is monkism when you put all that away. And even Camus, that that was a very, very good looking man, could have had any woman in the world and took part in those pleasures. He simply would not talk about them with people, and that's what I say the Mgtow monk is. It's none of nobody's business. It's don't ask, don't tell. We will not live on these terms where I'm going to be my masculinity is going to be validated by your thoughts of my my parts, or if you're thinking about my back parts as a womb, that would be wrong. And that's all I was saying to those people that I got in the argument with that day. If you're thinking about my back parts as a womb, it's not. And that's just funny. Been a while since I had a steak and shake. Digital degeneration. Yeah, I was thinking about going to I was actually thinking about calling Steve and saying, "Hey, buddy, you want to go get a burger down at the Steak and Shake and just go kind of talk with Steve and that and do that thing. He deserves it. I don't know what Steve's doing nowadays, but he's a fellow Clevelander and he knows our plight here in Cleveland. So is what is he? Derek. Derek's a fellow, and Dog. What's his name? Is a fellow Cleveland. A lot of Mgtows around town. We should have a Mgtow Cleveland get together because there's a lot of us around Cleveland, from Mentor to Lorraine to Huron in the general area. That's funny, Steve. Steve. So I just wanted to come around and talk a little today. That it's so hard sometimes. My headache these last few months. This is from this grayness around here. Winter's gone and the sun came out, and I started feeling a little better. And went for my bike ride today, and I was just fucking feeling great. And I mowed the grass today. Can you imagine that? I got the gumption to mow the grass. I just imagined that letter coming in the mail, Mr. Byrne, please mow your grass, you asshole. I'm going to fertilize tomorrow and then mow the jungle in the back. And I got some things to do back there. like I said, it was a disastrous wind-filled winter, and some of the gusts got well above 70 degrees, and it destroyed my shed and my little place where I like to barbecue. You know, you got the little tent thing. It's destroyed that. It flipped it over. It's laying back there, and I got to chop wood and get the fire pit going and put the stools back out there so we can sit out there and talk around the fire pit. And so I have to do that instead of just neglecting the backyard and let it go into jungle. I know Nietzsche talked about these obligations, whether we take on these obligations when we do these things. If you want to be your own God, you're going to get obligations. I wish I could explain that to feminists too. You want to be your own God, there's obligations to that. There's responsibility to that. There's accountability to that. And I am no longer the father. I will not be God the Father. I will not be that thing that you want. And that's, I think Camus is saying that too. I will not be these things. As if you want that, feminism can have that. I have no problem with them being strong, independent girls with responsibility and accountability and great jobs. I want them all to have a great job so they can raise those kids, you know. But it's theirs. Like Al Bundy said, we lost masculinity when the first man said, "We're having a child." We're not having a child. She is, and that's her responsibility. And then all the rest of the other idiots started believing that you are somehow responsible for her deeds. But now with feminism, she wants to be. That's why I explain these things. That's why I do Camus. That's why I do. She wants to be her own God. She wants to do what men did in the early 1800s. We rejected that almighty. We rejected that idea. And Nietzsche and you know, all those guys, okay, but we have responsibility. Now, what is that responsibility? It's to yourself. You become a good person. You study and you add to your community. And I want that all for feminism. I want all the bright, intelligent young girls to have that. But with that comes responsibility. That's it. Let's reduce the taxes now. Get rid of those. Get rid of those things. And I'm not. I believe in us. In a a humanity where we take care of the poor and we have a good community and all that stuff. Woo, woo. But time to chip in now, and time to be that responsible person that you wanted, because that's the philosophy of it. You wanted to be your own God. You didn't want a father. We're not fathers, and that's the Mgtow philosophy. We are no longer those fathers. You didn't want them. Okay, great. Go girl. Go get that. Arguing with that is just what I just explained in the book. Go back and listen. In the Rebel, they became the rebel. Okay, good. I want that for you. But the rebel has obligations now. And that's what Nietzsche and Camus and they were all trying to explain. And then feminism was, Mary Wollstonecraft's fantasy fiction world, and backed up with Ayn Rand's fantasy fiction world she made up in these monolithic male figures that we can't measure up to. these huge male figures that you'll never be, and that's purposeful. So that's why female philosophy always goes the way of fantasy fiction, I suppose. I think the truest female philosophy was Hannah Ardant's The Banality of Evil. I can get something from that when she interviewed Eichmann. We can learn from Eichmann, but it wasn't Eichmann's fault. And that was it was the iniquity of evil there, with all the little workers that did all the little things and stamped all the stamps and said, these Jews will go to the train. These Jews will go to this camp. And for that, there was 100 little clerical workers, the same women that we love every day, stamping the stamp and moving the paperwork. That's where the true evil was. That's where the true evil, the iniquity of evil, is stamping the stamps, the government, the state. That was the state at that time. But killing Eichmann was like, you feel better now? It was not him. It was the 3,000 employees that did what he said, that did what the government told them to do. Stamp to stamp, send it along. That every name on the thing represented a person, but they didn't see the person. That's where the true evil was. That's where the banality of evil was. If you're looking for evil, look for it there. And then relate that to our, it's easy, relate it to our situation now, the monolithic, the buildings with the Roman fronts that you go down to pay your tickets from police officers. I say, we don't need police officers. We need a good neighborhood. The police only show up after the crime happens. That's the hypocrisy of the police. It's ridiculousness. You want a good neighborhood? Become part of the neighborhood? Watch. Go out on your bike. Put a camera on it like I do. Film everything. When you see something, say something. You see the drug dealers? Say something. Oh, I know. Everybody will tell you, oh, those are bad guys. They'll hurt you. No one's hurting me. The winners write history. Yes, Eric, the winners do write history. And that's a shame. Revisionist history. Revisionist history was an interesting study of mine years and years ago. I equate that to the Irish. The Irish, there was a book, Ireland, A Terrible Beauty. If you ever read it, it talks about the 60s and the stuff and what happened with, Black Friday there. And then the English government said that they had to revise the book, so they did, and then that starts an idea of revisionist history. It's like the winners always get to revise history. But it doesn't have to be that way. That's what Hitler, he wanted to revise history. He wanted to get rid of the poets and the writers and the news people that would give you honest news, because he wanted his history. Because his history was better for him. Yes, if you get to be the media, and that's what we argue about now these days, with people like me that are often censored, and Google gets to tell you what history is going to be. They get rid of people, they erase people, they disappear people. They'll disappear me someday. They'll find me to be, they tried to disappear the very book, The Rebel. The Rebel, it tells you about being a rebel. From metaphysical rebellion to whatever. I'm about halfway through now. It takes a long time to read these things. I wanted to get rid of this. If you look it up, it's hard to find. I got a version from 1952 too. I got the original paperback from 1952. I was shocked when I found it, and it was like $7. I said, "That's mine." I like old books, as you can see. My favorite book from 1912. I got an original. I was reading Custer at Little Bighorn. God, I love the ways you smell the pages. This was written by Libby Custer on a female's point of view of what happened at, it has to do with Hillary Clinton. When you think about it nowadays, the women suffer. That's what Libby Custer was saying in that book. Oh, the women suffered because all the men died. But she explains how Custer was marching the men for 8-day marches, so Custer can go get a little happy minutes with his wife, and then marching them back, and they were exhausted. And when they got the Little Bighorn, they weren't good soldiers. They were worn out soldiers, and that's because Custer wanted to get a little P, and that V. That's what this book is about if you ever read it. But you got to deal with from the female voice. But What is War? That's my favorite book. What is War? Jefferson. That's an old one. But yeah, that's what Mgtow gives you the time to do. Analyze these things in history. And Mgtow is all about history and philosophy and knowing your history, knowing how we got here, Romanticism, Victorian age, nihilism, and pragmaticism, and turn to this thing that we have now. It's very hard to put your finger on what there is, obviousism or something. Deidre now with just everything's obvious. It's just obvious. It drives me nuts. So I've talked about long enough and went on, and the point of this whole thing was supposedly, stop the drama, start doing Mgtow. Once you Mgtow, you don't care what they're doing. It does. When we argue with the females, we have a gentle alliance with them then. And it's like I say, anti-feminism and feminism is the same thing, because you have a gentle alliance with the females you argue with it, and that it puts you squarely back into that realm of drama and chaos. And that drama and chaos is attractive to the new members of Mgtow, because it resembles the thing they long for the most. And that thing they long for the most is relationships and that drama and more chaos. And that's a way back out. So we have to stop with the drama. We have to stop with the chaos. Chaos is slavery. And we enslave our minds to the chaos. We slave our minds to the chaos. Who is that? Oh, thanks, Rick. That's for my book club. Yeah, I was gonna order a new book tonight. I got 1 credit on my Amazon right now left, and I was gonna order Steiner, but I just couldn't bring myself to read Steiner. So I don't know. That's why I was going through some thoughts today. It was the natural progression. I tried Foucault earlier this week. And Foucault, for all of his long-windedness, really doesn't say anything. And but I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to end up doing what most philosophers do, is fall back into the Gnostic, do symbolism. No, I won't. I'm too pragmatic to fall for esoteric stuff. Esotericism is fun, but it's just magic thinking. And I don't do magic thinking anymore. I'm too old and I'm too grumpy to do magic thinking, and it makes my head hurt. And then I have to get a drink. And that's never a good idea, because then I drink and I growl at the world. And that's it. So I'm going to let y'all go. And thanks a lot for coming around and listening to my ramblings of philosophy. They say Mgtow's a philosophy, but we rarely talk about philosophy in here. So I figured I'd fill that gap with my limited understanding of philosophy in life. And I wish Marcus would come back, and come back, Marcus. Marcus, we need you. But if we're going to develop a Mgtow philosophy, hey, just ask some guy somewhere, like, if you believe it's a philosophy, then what is the philosophy? And see if he's able to tell you what it is. I could tell you what it is, but most of the guys will not know that question. But the philosophy of Mgtow. That's an interesting thing. It's just what philosophy is. It's a continuation of all the soffits before us, and we have to continue it. Because if it's left to Deidre, he's just going to say the obvious. And I think the red pill in Mgtow is something that has to be written down in history. It's never been this way. Uh, Men have never thought this way before, and never had the courage to think outside the box, such as us. And Mgtow is courage. You know what's the courage for? It's the courage to say no. No, I'm not going to believe that. I'm not going to believe that government buildings and the and the and the romanticism. I'm not going to believe all that. That we need you. We don't need you. We need our community, and we need to start talking to our neighbors, and we need to get rid of them. The state is the biggest evil. But I don't want to go on for hours and days about this, and I'm gonna let y'all go. And I hope you learned something today. Hey, get audio book The Rebel, listen to it. I think you'll be wow, this guy thinks like me, because we all, those MGTOWs, think alike. And most of all, man, it's all up to you guys. Each and every one of you, each and every one of you's got a job in here, no matter what that job is or what your perception of your job is in Mgtow. It's yours. Do it, and do it like a boss. And that's it. Most of all, thanks a lot for being Mgtow. Mgtow. And that's your job, being a Mgtow. Thanks a lot for coming around, Mgtow. See ya.